Okay, I think we will get going. Hello, welcome everyone to our postcard from the future, Spotlight on Data. Hopefully you guys will enjoy our sort of guided interactive session. Feel free to interrupt, talk. This is a interactive workshop. We're not going to talk at you, we'd like to talk with you. So we're going to run through a few things before we get going. So I'll just move over into our next slide and hand over to Janine.
Yeah, morning everybody. As Melody just said, today's a really interactive workshop. It's an opportunity for us to kick back and share ideas and hear from each other, and it's going to run for somewhere between 30-45 minutes. We'll see how we go. If we get really into the chat, we might take the full hour, but it's Friday and the sun is shining, so we will see how we go. We are recording this session, so if you want to read it, look back at it fondly afterwards, you're very welcome to, or if you want to share it with any colleagues that couldn't make the session, you'll be able to do that as well. This is an opportunity for us to kind of have some space to do some thinking and some networking as well. So do feel free, if we were all in person together, you might be exchanging details or business cards if you've still got those. So feel free to drop your details in the chat if you want to hear more from somebody or catch up with them afterwards. We will be using the chat function to create our postcards. So you might want to have a notepad open. A virtual notepad might be easier, so you can copy and paste, or you might want to just jot some notes down on a pad next to you. That's also fine. If you've got a question, let us know. There's lots of interactive stuff on Zoom, so there's the emoji reactions and the chat function, as we've mentioned, and we are going to be sharing the outputs from today, so there will be this deck and also the kind of themes and postcards that we create. So we'll share those with you afterwards.
Okay, thank you very much. So before we really get going, I think it's we thought it would be worthwhile to spend just a moment to introduce ourselves, your facilitators, so Janine and myself and Krista. So hello, we are Equantiis. We are a digital and technology consulting practice, and we work across three primary sectors. So we work in the commercial sector, the non-profit charity sector, and of course we work in the HE sector, and I know you guys are primarily higher education. And we do a number of different things with different institutions. So we work across all the way from helping institutions to understand and define their strategies, and then help them build roadmaps and sort of step-by-step programs of change to enable them to implement those strategies, all the way through to working with departments. We're working with an institution at the moment who has asked us to support them to understand their admissions processes from applicant all the way through to enrolment. So we work to do some process discovery and process mapping and optimization, creating opportunities, understanding how processes can become more operationally efficient, all the way through to dealing with automation bots who deal with the real nitty-gritty of a sub-process. So, you know, a click here, do this, log in there, move this data from this field to the other field. So we do the full spectrum of activities for the sector, and we work with a number of different institutions, including London South Bank, London School of Economics, Manchester Met. We're currently working with Sussex and with University of the Arts London, as well as Roehampton and many others as well. My name is Melody, hello, and I am one of the principal consultants here, and I am what I've fondly termed myself to be a HE lifer. So I left school at 18, I went and studied at university, and then I got a job at the Open University, and then I have never left HE. So I have been in this industry for around and about 20 years. And I've worked in a number of different institutions, from red brick all the way through to distance learning. And then more recently have worked with a software company who to develop a student information system, and then over here to Equantiis, where I do that sort of full spectrum of strategy all the way through to robotic process automation and then everything in between. And I will pass you over to Janine.
Thanks, Melody. Yeah, you've guessed it. We're massively data geeks. Hence that's the future theme that we are embracing today. So you're in a safe space if you share our data geekiness. My background is in the not-for-profit sector, but switched over to start supporting our HE clients a few years ago. Lots of synergy there. So we look at kind of best practice across the different sectors we work in, and use those ideas, steal those ideas really, and take them across to the HE sector. I've done a bit of work as a functional consultant as well, so I know student record management systems pretty well. And I think really there's two kind of main things that we are trying to do when we work with our clients, and that's to look at operational efficiency. So how can we work smarter, harder, faster, quicker, and give staff that more time to do the real value added stuff front facing with your applicants and students, but also looking for ways to improve that experience as well, that student experience. So they're the kind of big ticket things we're always keeping our eye on. But without kind of underpinning good data, those things just are really not possible. So that's why we've decided to take a bit of a lens on the data theme for our time traveling experience with you today.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Krista, who is our marketing director and is facilitating the session today. Hi, Krista. If there are any technical problems, you can't hear us, we can't hear you, anything like that, Krista is your sort of go-to, and she'll be facilitating some of the workshop, the interactive section. So as we move into the dialogue, we'll be able to draw out some themes and things that we'd want to explore in further detail, and Chris will be able to facilitate some of that conversation as well. So, okie-doke. So, onwards to the purpose of today, and I hope you're all enjoying our very fancy Back to the Future PowerPoint. We worked really hard on it. It looks fantastic. So really today's session is an opportunity for you and for us to talk through and consider your institution's future data landscape. And this is an informal session. We are not expecting you to know the answers, and part of the interactive workshop is to help guide you to start thinking about what your future data landscape might look like and what purpose it serves, and how you want to use your data to deliver your business, university, strategic objectives, and to enhance the applicant and student experience. So we'll look at data through a number of different lenses. And this activity really is it might feel quite light touch, but actually it is a variation of the things that we would do with all of our HE clients when we're talking about building not only data strategy, but actually any strategy. Really start to understand what you want that future to look like, because that gives you your to-be state, your desired state, and then actually what you can do later is once we've done the session and you had a chance to talk with your peers, and we've validated some of the commentary, you can take away your postcard and start to think about, okay, how do we operationally now implement that? So we know what the desired future state needs to look like. Let's take a step back and figure out what steps we need to take to get there. So it might feel a little bit like it's like touch, but actually it's a really integral part of understanding how a strategy can be delivered. Oh, and that wobbles as well. Fabulous. Okay, so let's move on and set the data scene. And I'm not going to apologise, because this is just this has been the pinnacle of my consulting career, has been this slide. So data. So what do we mean when we are talking about data? So data is integral to how an institution can deliver its operational and strategic objectives. There is data everywhere in an institution, right? You have applicant data, you have recruitment data, you have student data, you have data about your curriculums, then you have all the ecosystem around data. So you have HR data, you have operational data, all these different facets of information that come to you in an institution. And one of the things that we need to make sure that we can do is understand how you acquire the data, how you organise that data, and how you analyse and deliver that data in a way that supports your operational and strategic objectives. So when we think about the activity that we're about to do, what we really want to understand is, how do you look at your data? How do you want to look at your data? How do you want to organise and analyse your data? What is it that you want your data to deliver to you? And some things to think about, with HE at the moment, our experience, and I'd be interested to understand your thoughts on this as well, but our experience is that data sits in silos, it sits separately from one another, there is duplication of data, and it lives in perpetuity, right? So one of the fun facts I had about Star Trek's data is that he can potentially live for 20 million years. And if you think about the data that we have, actually that can live in perpetuity unless we're very careful about our GDPR and our data security and data protection and compliance elements. There are copies, duplications of data everywhere, and there are inconsistencies around how you manage your data across those different departments. So there are challenges that we have to navigate in order to then be able to deliver a cohesive, data-driven strategy for the institution. So if we move on to some of the challenges that we have seen in higher education, I'm going to pass over to Janine, who's going to talk you through some of these things that we've experienced.
Absolutely. Sorry, this is a live session when someone starts drilling outside your window, so I apologise if anyone can hear that. I just quickly had to shut the windows. Absolutely. I'm sure that these challenges will resonate and look pretty familiar, but if we just take some of the kind of key themes around data that could be problematic, I guess the most obvious one really is around compliance. So you've got risks around non-compliance for statutory reporting, HESA, data futures, but also around use of data, GDPR, and those tricksy marketeers like Krista that always want to capture everything and anything just in case we need it. Obviously principles of things like data minimization and privacy by design, but also information security and data security as well. So there's a whole compliance and security wrapper around data that we have to be mindful of. And then Melody's already mentioned student engagement. So we've been working with the Institute this week around admissions, and there's a whole piece around what do you do about duplicate data handling, matching up records, those tricksy applicants or students who give you one name and then give you a different name and they end up being the same record, and the impact that might have later on. I think we see time and time again institutes really struggling to get insight and data intelligence, and a lot of the time that's due to disconnected systems and the data not moving its way through or being in different instances in different systems, and how that affects the engagement part with your students or applicants, because you can't either get the data you want from them up front, or you can't hold on to it or use it in the way that you want to. Increasingly, we're being approached by institutes to help them with their strategic objectives, setting KPIs, but actually creating a data strategy. Technology strategy, that's been around for a while, and that's the sort of thing that we've always helped people with. But data, specifically data strategy, is becoming more and more common. There are the added complexities with higher education around long decision cycles and process inefficiency, and this concept of kind of not having a single version of the truth because of these disconnected data systems makes that data really disjointed, the experience really disjointed, and actually adds to staff frustration. So again, what we see time and time again is staff really going the extra mile, taking on a huge administrative burden in order to keep their student experience really good. But the frustration that we hear from staff becomes more and more. And so that kind of leads us on to, whether or not the tools and technologies that you're using are fit for purpose in order for that data journey to be, really effective. And really, we're seeing time and time again institutions with either legacy systems, which means that they were put in without their data being in mind, so just having to kind of deal with what they've already got, and that means that the data journey becomes really, really difficult. And I think the biggest challenge around tools and technologies really, continues to be interoperability challenges around, connecting systems, which is why we're doing quite a lot of work with intelligent automation at the moment. So yeah, what we wanted to do was lay this all out on the table in a cathartic chaise lounge moment, to say we do appreciate that there are these challenges, and hopefully most of them will have resonated. I can see a few nods already. But this session today is futuristic, if you haven't already got that from our Geek Out stuff on the pictures, and it's aspirational and vision setting. So with those challenges in mind, we don't want to ignore them. We definitely want to think about how they will be solved. But if we get these all out on the table nice and early, it's going to enable us to be visionary for the rest of this session today.
Thank you very much. And with that in mind, and this is a little bit of this slide is designed to help frame some of the thinking that will happen in the sort of next 20 minutes or so, which is around, okay, we've surfaced some of the issues that we often see in higher education around data silos, disjointed data, not able to really drive a student experience that is enhanced because you can't access that early intervention data that you might need to be able to do some predictive or prescriptive analytics. You can't capture that information early enough and intervene early enough to help drive that student experience. And you also then can't access that data to drive your university strategic objectives. You don't know how many students are progressing from one year to another. You don't know how many student applicants are dropping out at a certain moment, or how many students don't make it from year one to year two. There are lots of different ways in which data doesn't help you to drive that full picture and pull the university forward. So when we're thinking about data strategy, and this is, these are the principles and the dimensions that guide a strategy, but of course, Postcard from the Future is really when you have completed a piece of strategic work and have delivered this sort of future state. So when we're thinking about building strategy, these dimensions are really helpful guides to help your thinking around what a good strategy, what delivery of a good strategy looks like. So you might want to consider your data governance. What are your data? What does your future data governance state look like? What is it able to encompass and deliver? What does it assure for you and your staff at the university, and for your students in the university as well? And then leadership. Who owns data? How are you using data? Are your leadership team embedded, understand the power of data as an asset for the organisation? And that moves down, doesn't it? Because if you have strong leaders who really understand the importance and value of using data, you can then start to trickle that down throughout the institution. So what does your data culture look like? Do people you work with, your colleagues, your students, do they go to data in the first instance to help them drive their decision making? Do they, is it their first port of call? And then how do they use it? Are they using it in a really rudimentary sense, or in your future state, do you have the skills and the tools to do really enhanced data analysis and use data really intelligently in that sort of prescriptive, prescriptive analytics way? Can you intervene early enough? Can you drive your your university objectives? Are you collecting the right data? Now, we are having a lot of discussions with institutions who are all of a sudden confronted with data futures. Data futures is coming, it's big. It means that there are instances where institutions have not been collecting, as a matter of course, the data that they now need to submit to these statutory regulatory bodies. So what is your data what does your data collection look like? Does it need, will you have done a review by the time you've got there? Are you collecting the right things to make the right decisions? And then, of course, tools and technologies. We often find that people think that any change or transition, digital transition or digital transformation starts with the technology and then everything else sort of happens around it. But actually, that's not the way that it should work. What are your business drivers? What are you trying to achieve? And then assess whether or not your tools and your technology is fit for purpose. And if it's not, understand what do you need to make that work for you? Is it that you need to consider a different data warehousing tool and a different discovery layer? You know, how do you want your staff to be able to access that data and interrogate it? Do you need a number of different things to enable that to happen? And then, of course, skills and competencies. It's all good and well having a all singing, all dancing data discovery dashboard with really intelligent interrogation capabilities. If none of your university staff, operational and strategic and leadership staff, can use it, then what's the point? So what does that future state for your skills and your competencies also look like? Okay, right, on to the good stuff. So over to you, Janine.
Now's the time to buckle up and step into our metaphorical DeLorean. We want you to imagine that you've travelled in time in the Equantiis time machine. It's the year 2030. There's no more COVID. Richard Branson's got a hotel on Mars and petrol's £5 a litre. I really hope that's not true, by the way. But let's imagine we're in the future now, and your mission is to write a postcard back to yourself back in 2022 to explain or articulate, illustrate how data has changed at your institute and the impact that this has had. So this is our future thinking, aspirational opportunity to write what good looks like. What do we want? How do we want to see data? And you're going to write back to yourself today to explain how you've done that. If we just go on to the next slide, sorry, Melody. Yeah. Thank you. This is what your postcard's going to look like. So I want you to put on it how your data is being governed, the key challenges that you've overcome, the exciting ways that you're now using data to inform your business decisions or your decisions to how you're actually improving your student experience with it, any tools or technologies that you've adapted, how the culture's looking around data, and any sort of top tips to your future self. Now remember, postcards are small, so you're gonna have to be quite brief in your descriptor. What we're going to do is we're going to come out of this presentation, we're going to share with you a Miro board on screen, and what we want to do is, as you're writing your postcard, we want you to pop it into the chat function in Zoom here, and then we are going to write your postcards for you. So if you've got, if you're doing it the old-fashioned way with your pen, fine, put some notes down and then put them into the chat afterwards. Or if you've got something like Notepad or Word open on your laptop, feel free to just type in there and then add them to the chat. All good? Anyone got any questions? Everyone ready to live in the world of 2030?
I really hope it's not £5 per litre.
I really hope it's not £5 a litre. I'd love to go to Mars though.
Oh yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing, Janine, and pass over to you for Miro.
Thank you. Everyone's gone quiet now, Melody, because they're all writing their postcard.
I know. It's a tense moment.
Melody, I don't know if you just want to remind people of the themes as we're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. So think about governance and leadership. You might want to have a think about your data culture and how you're using and analysing your data. You can think about how you're collecting your data and tools and technologies, as well as skills and competencies. And this is the future state. So you've achieved nirvana, you've achieved data nirvana. I'm curious to understand what that looks like for you guys. And then, as Janine says, if you can start to pop it in the chat, then we can start to build your postcards.
How about that? How are we doing in the chat, Melody?
Yeah, all good, all quiet in the chat just now. People are still busy scurrying away. Give them a bit of time. Do we have? Hi, Keith.
Sorry, some IT gremlins.
No worries. Probably still got them in the future.
Keith, have you been in the session at all so far?
Yeah, you just literally dropped out for 2 minutes.
Oh, fab. Okay, great.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
That's great.
In the year 2030, I would like it to be law that you have to eat Easter eggs at any time before Easter, because I'm looking at a whole stack of them thinking I can't eat these yet.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that going to be part of your data postcard from the future?
Be my manifesto if I
Your
become queen or something.
That's fair enough.
Lovely. How are we doing? Anybody good to share their ideas?
Not quite yet. Shall we give everybody another 5 minutes or so, maybe, we give them some time. So yeah, it's 10:30 now, so 10:35. We'll sit in silence, so we're not disturbing you. Stop talking about Easter eggs, Janine.
That's going to be hard. Here we go.
Fabulous. Nice. It's perfect, Rachel. Absolutely perfect. Nice.
Oh, controversial. I love a bit of controversy.
Janine, you're so nifty with Miro. I try and do this and everything moves about and
You can tell I've spent a lot of time facilitating this week. Okay. If you've done your postcard and you want to share in the chat, I was going to say your name, where you came from, but that sounds a bit like Cilla Black from if anyone's a 90s child and watched Blind Date. But yeah, feel free to share your role and the institute you're from if you're able to. That'd be great.
I was about to say, I wonder if people are going to wonder if they've attended the wrong second half of the wrong session. This is now turned into Blind Date for part 2.
It's not that. Thank you, Keith. So we've got Therefore, Rachel, Tim, Kay, is it maybe Anne and Debbie? Anne and Debbie? Cool. These are great.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Righty-ho. Oh, thank you, Anne.
Okay. I think we are there or thereabouts.
Great stuff.
Are we good? Are we waiting for any?
I think Debbie's Debbie
yes.
got, and she stepped out to take a call. So
Yes, absolutely.
You can carry on writing away, Debbie, in the background if you want to. Cool.
Okay. So that looks great.
Good to go, Melody?
Yep, just bringing the Miro board up. Apologies in advance if I suddenly start moving all sorts of things about. Yep, I've already done that by accident. Whoops. Sorry, Janine.
Away.
Okay, so we've got some amazing themes being drawn out here. So Rachel, I don't know if you guys want to talk through some of your thoughts, Rachel. That would be fab if you want to just articulate, and we're going to draw some themes together as we work through. So we've got some broad ideas about what this might look like.
Yeah, sure. I think like everybody is that desire of just having it at your fingertips, and that's for staff and students. So mine was I just envisioned that I'd be able to pick up my phone and go, oh yeah, there's the latest data. It's all live, updated. And the key thing for me is that I have confidence in it, and that it's not, oh, I need to double check. Oh, that's the MIS data, but that's local data. There's just one central place. And it's that confidence, I think, that's the key thing for me.
The universities are struggling with. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's fab. Thank you. I think you're absolutely right that having confidence in your data is so key to being able to deliver an enhanced, or good student experience, but also driving those university objectives. And it's that single. And we often talk about that single source of truth, don't we? That of being confident in your data and knowing that there is a single moment where you understand in full what that student's experience is going to look like and what that student data looks like. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for kicking that off. Any comments on Rachel's one? Jeff, well, yours is great. Happy to have you go next.
Yeah, I feel like I've betrayed how boring my holidays are. Now, if this is the kind of postcard, you don't want to be my friend, do you? If this is the kind of postcard you receive from me on holiday, give you Sunday afternoon reading. Yeah, I mean, I threw my point about the VLE in there because I'm sort of currently just agitating a little bit inside the institution about this kind of stuff. But I think it's the same theme as everybody else. But I was taking you talked a bit about platforms and so on, student record systems and so on. And actually, I think we are getting more sophisticated and ought to be getting more sophisticated about the fact we should be platform agnostic. And if we're really going to achieve a state where we're super sophisticated in the use of data, that should be the conversation we're having, not the processes that we're underpinning or the platforms that we're using, that this is all about curating a set of data. And if we start every conversation with what data are we going to use, how are we going to use it, where is it going to go, then we will make sure that all our platforms integrate and that data is able to flow seamlessly between them, so that the end user, whether that is a student accessing their own data to guide their choices, or a member of staff delivering a service, teaching, assessing students, they're able to access it and they're able to make better choices and support their students better, because that data will all be joined up and will tell them a rich story about the people they're working with.
I mean, that's
Love that.
fantastic. Yeah, absolutely love it. How does everyone else, does that resonate with other people on the call right now on the session? There's nodding. I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? That idea of two things that struck me. One was being platform agnostic, and that is something that I think HE is coming to realise, but it's a concept that HE is struggling with a little bit, because traditionally it's not been particularly platform agnostic. And I think actually we're in a really strong position at the moment, because educational technology platforms have become so much more sophisticated, and the way that we use our technologies to support the delivery of a student experience and operational delivery in an institution is also changing and morphing. And I think COVID probably helped a little bit with universities trying to capture some of that, but certainly as we move on, we're definitely starting to hear that sort of dialogue. And then
I was struck by Janine when you said that we don't talk enough about data. We talk about the platform, and we still tend to. We talk about the platform or the activity we're trying to underpin, whether that's teaching, studies activity, library activity, student records for purposes of external reporting and so on. We don't talk about the data. We don't start the conversation with data. We're beginning to. And we challenge, and I challenge internally, and everything to do with student systems that we underpin in education systems. How are we going to make sure that this data can integrate across the different systems and be pulled together? Because eventually somebody is going to want to pull that data together and learn stuff from it.
Absolutely. I often have conversations with people about their processes, and I'll just ask them the fairly innocent question, what are you doing and why are you doing it like that? And the answer I get a lot of the time is, our system won't let us, or it doesn't have the option to, or we can't. And then when you start sort of stepping the process out, there's 57 steps and 5 spreadsheets and an access database, all trying to just achieve one thing, and it's all down to limitations of the technology. And so you go back to, well, what are you trying to achieve and what do you want to know, which are data questions, but the answer is always about the tech.
And it's never actually the limitations of the technology or the platform. It's because you haven't designed the data to be able to integrate and flow. That's it. It never is the platform.
Absolutely that.
It's exactly that. It's exactly that. And it's been interesting, the interest in data, the interest in data strategy as a precursor to almost those digital transition, digital transformation, new technology purchases has been really interesting. It's been a real shift in the last 6 to 8 months that we've seen, that actually institutions are starting to think about, okay, what data questions are we trying to answer? And then we'll use that as the foundation. Then we'll go and build all the other things that we need to build around that, which has been a really interesting change, I think, as well. Thank you. That's been great. Keith.
Good morning, everybody. I'm actually in sustainability, not data, but a lot of what I'm trying to do is bring data into making sustainable decisions. Because if you're going to challenge business as usual, you almost don't know what your inefficiencies are if you don't have the data to, you don't know what you're losing by not managing a process. So it's been really interesting listening to everybody's insights and challenges. And from my side, I'm doing a fair bit of carbon accounting, which feels like trying to pull together a lot of these disparate systems, because we want to record all our impacts, and we're seeing a lot of these challenges. So a lot of what I was saying was about the single dashboard and a source of truth to enable people to make, in my case, more carbon conscious decisions. But it's also going to roll over into biodiversity and adaptation and other sides of sustainability. So it's been really fascinating listening to everybody, and it's helped my understanding of the data challenges, and yeah, I guess getting people to move away from that obsession with the platform and almost show me what the platform can do, and rather than asking questions, what are we trying to achieve and what are we going to get from the data. So thank you, everybody. It's been great reading your stuff.
Keith, have you noticed since lockdown, people working from home, different ways of working sustainably? I'm just thinking a lot of institutes we've worked with before, there's been like a heavy reliance on print. I'm just thinking from a sustainability point of view of printing things out. So you'd see like loads of physical records, which, you know, from a security GDPR point of view is always a nightmare. So I'm just wondering whether you've seen changes in the behavior of data, positive changes brought on by lockdown.
Yeah, I think there's been a number. Printing and not got much visit. The biggest one is business travel, and the fact that people have gone, actually, I can hold a virtual meeting. I don't have to physically be there in person. That's the biggest impact. But it has, as I say, I don't want to say the positives out of the pan, but you know, it has encouraged people that actually some of these things that were non-negotiable, like I need my own printer, I need my own this, that, and the other, I need my own office, have suddenly become actually that there are systems that can help with that. But it's also brought a whole load of challenges, like how do you account for the carbon for somebody working from home rather than in an office? How do you share office spaces? What's the importance of occupancy data so we know utilization, so rather than just guessing where people are on the network? So there's a whole load of changes that the pandemic has brought.
Interesting, thank you. Sorry, just struck me because of your you know, slightly unique viewing. That's great, thank you.
Thank you so much, Keith. That was really interesting. I'm very mindful that we're at 10:45, and I think what we'd like to do is to just draw some of this to a conclusion. And I appreciate it's a very short session, but whilst we've been talking, Janine and Krista have been busy scurrying away with identifying some themes that have come out of the dialogue and the postcards. And I don't know, Janine, if you want to just take a couple of minutes to run through those, and if anybody has any commentary, any dialogue, any thoughts on these particular themes, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick out a couple of things from Tim and Anne's postcards as well, because I know they haven't had the chance to talk us through them. I'll give them that chance now, actually. But Tim would like a world where 90% of students are online. Tim, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, or if anyone's got any other thoughts about where. I assume you mean online teaching, Tim. Oh, we can't hear you, I'm afraid. You might need to type in the chat. Which was really interesting. Tim's also telling us that whilst fees are lower, they've got loads more students, and maybe that's because of the ability to have them online. And I just wanted to give Anne the chance to tell us about aligning outcomes with data. That was a really interesting part around, and your mention of dashboards and OKRs. Any other thoughts there, Anne?
Sure. So yeah, hi. I'm a bit like Keith in that I'm not absolutely immersed in data. I'm a senior project manager. I work across various different projects. Obviously, data is a huge thing. Yeah, I see data as being important as a to facilitating effective flow, collaboration, and learning. And yeah, we're at the Open University starting to work in a very sort of outcome focused way. So yeah, focusing on what our aims and objectives are and making sure that we've got the data to support what we're doing, enable us to make effective decisions, you know, to choose to do the right things in order to achieve our outcomes is really important.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we're just starting to experiment with OKRs. And
Oh,
yeah, over 90% of our students are at a distance online.
Wow.
And I think we have over 200,000 of them.
So you're already in
we're in that
space. Awesome. Well, I think there's definitely some common things that we're seeing here. Dashboards has come up more than once. Mobile, the ability to access information remotely or from a mobile way. So we're talking about having lots of online students, but also being able to access information on different devices. We've just heard there from Anne around the importance of reporting. So the dashboards, OKRs, objectives and key results, KPIs too. I liked what Rachel's written around governors have got the confidence that the data was correct. So confidence in our data, I can see that coming up time and time again. It's all very well to be able to get it out, but is it actually the right stuff? Keith's thoughts around central repository or single version of the truth, absolutely. The disconnected data sources at HEIs mean that we often don't have that single view, and I think that's really important. I also like what Keith's written around automatically having access to the stuff that you want to have. So how, I think that's a common thing we see as well. And again, back to Derval's comment about technology, it's often I was in a workshop just yesterday where someone was telling me they couldn't do something because the permissions of their SRM, it might have been a tribal SRM, wasn't allowing them to lock data down in such a way that, and they were too scared to open it up to staff, so they just weren't giving it to staff, which meant one person was the only one that could do this particular task. So yeah, I think that was really interesting as well. And then going back to Derval's comments around focusing in on the data first and then thinking about the technology second, so making it an enabler or something that underpins what you do and how you do it. I'm not sure how much of that Krista's got in our themes here, but we will, sorry Krista, we'll make sure that we go back over your postcards with a fine-tooth comb and pull those out into the theme so we can share them in our deck afterwards.
Fab, thank you very much, Janine. Thank you, everyone. That was really, really interesting. Really good to see that people are engaged in the process. I hope that you found it useful. It can be a little bit unnerving to start writing postcards to yourself as a way of defining strategy, but actually we found it's a really useful tool to get people to start thinking about what that future state might look like, so then you can sort of start to work backwards a little bit and understand how you can then reach your sort of future desired state. So I'm going to really quickly share my screen one last time just to talk you through, bear with me one moment, just to talk you through what you can do with your outputs from today. So after the session, as Janine said, we'll start to pull together some more of those themes, and we'll create another slide in the deck and get that sent out to you guys, so you can start to use your own postcard and other people's postcards as a foundation for some of your institutional thinking around the use of data. Really, and luckily, and thank you for this, Janine, ignoring the risk to the impact on the time-space continuum, you're allowed to take your postcard back with you. Thanks, thank you. You've had fun with this deck, haven't you? I didn't want
anyone to think that, the doc would be calling them up. Yeah, that
we weren't going to inadvertently cause some sort of intergalactic crash. Okay, but it's a really intuitive tool. I hope that you felt that it is intuitive, and it's enables you to get some insight into your own aspirations and expectations without the limitations of reality, right? So actually, as you become more familiar with the process of this sort of postcard from the future format, and we hope that you take it back to your institutions and use it as a tool to work with your teams. But as you get more familiar with the format and more familiar with what data might be able to do for you in the future, you can really start to blue sky think about what that might look like for your institution. And of course, I hope you've seen that the tool is simple to learn how to use, and you can really take it back and use it within your own groups. And it's a tool that we've used to start disparate groups to start thinking about strategy, but it's also a really useful tool if you want to go back and refresh as well. So you can either go back to the postcard, or you can do the exercise again. Okay, we've achieved this state here. Okay, what can we do? You know, what's the next step that we need to achieve in order to achieve our business goals? So what the other thing that is helpful with the Postcard from the Future tool and workshop process is that it helps you to start set the scene for requirements around what good looks like at the institute. So this is where you can almost operationalize the project that sits around the Postcard from the Future. So if you're talking about platform agnostic, data driven, really clear single source of truth, okay, these are really big ticket items that you can operationalize by implementing change at your institution. So it serves as an end point, but it also serves as a starting point, which we think is a really helpful way to frame that conversation with the people who are your stakeholders, but also with those people in your institution who might not be involved integrally in the process of that change or that transition. So it's a really nice thing to send out to other key stakeholders across the institution. This is what we aspire to as a data-driven organisation. So I promised Janine that I would get to this final slide, which has got this fancy little guy at the end, which I'm sure you'll all recognise. But it remains, only remains for us to say our sincere thanks for you guys to have been so accommodating and happy to have a dialogue about data. And I think it goes without saying, Janine, that it's been an enjoyable hour.
Yeah, thanks everybody for being so honest and open about your challenges, but also just having some time and space to think about what the future could be like.
There we go, fabulous. Thank you all so much. We will get this recording out to you, as well as a copy of the deck and a copy of your postcards, so that you can use in your own at your own leisure.
Great, thanks all. Have a good rest of your day and your weekend.
Yes, and enjoy the sunshine, everybody.